the top of this year, Candace Owens said that the FBI had arrested a man who planned to kill her. Do you guys remember that? This is before Charlie Kirk and all this happened. This is back in May. Said the FBI arrested a man that tried to kill Candace. She was allegedly the target of a violent death threat that led to the arrest and guilty plea of a New Jersey man. Remember, Candace reported on this. She shared the details of the alleged ordeal, which began in September of last year following her widely publicized debate with Rabbi Shmuley. According to Candace Owens, her family was subjected to the harassment and threats prompting involvement from federal law enforcement. She said, quote, "My family endured a series of attacks led by deranged Zionists. On the 21st of that month, we were contacted by the FBI and informed that their department had apprehended a suspect in relation to the crime involving the threats made against me," Candace Owens said. So they've been trying to get her, and I'm sure she's aware of it. Her husband is probably aware of it, and the people around her, I'm sure she's taking all the necessary precautions. But it's just, you got to remember, man, everybody is not children of God. And I know we like to try to live in this idealistic world where we believe everybody is God's children, but Jesus Christ said that everybody is not God's children. And to be wary of that when we're in the world. The scripture says to be as wise as a serpent and harmless as a dove, right? And I thought this was important. I wanted to actually read the scripture to you guys because I came across this in my study when I was studying this week. And I think it's applicable to this. And you know what? If you read Luke chapter 6 as well, I'm going to read to you guys from John chapter 8. But if you read Luke chapter 6, it says in verse 22, it says, "Blessed are you when people hate you and when they exclude you and when they revile you and spurn your name as evil on the account of the Son of Man, on account of Jesus Christ. Rejoice in that day and leap for joy, for behold, your reward is great in heaven. For so their fathers did to the prophets." Basically, the same way that people exclude you, and the same way that people revile you for believing in God and believing in Jesus, and the same way people call you names and call you evil and different things like that, Christ said when he gave the Beatitudes that that's exactly what the forefathers of the Pharisees and the forefathers of these people that are doing these things to you, those forefathers did the same things to the prophets in the past, killed them too, you know? And it's just so important to know that, especially as believers. And it's important to understand when you're walking through the world as a believer, and when you're, whether you have a media company like I have a media company, or you working like Candace, or whether you're working in a regular job, whatever you're going through, wherever your field is, right? There's a learning lesson for all of us. Everybody is not walking with the same spirit that you do. And everybody's not walking with the same conviction and the same, I have to live up to being a representation of something, right? Which is Christ for us. And so Jesus said in John chapter 8, verse 42 through, I'm going to go through, let's say through 47. I could go through 45, but I'm going to go through 47. John chapter 8, verse 42 says, Jesus said to them, quote, "If God were your father," he's saying to the Pharisees, right? "If God were your father, you would love me, for I came from God and I am here. I came not of my own accord, but he sent me." Jesus said, "Why do you not understand what I say? It is because you cannot bear to hear my word. You are of your father, the devil, and your will is to do your father's desires." So Jesus said it right there. Some people are of God, father is the devil. Some people are children of, or the children of light are not as astute in their own generation as the children of the world. Meaning, again, there's people that are children of God and there's people that's not. Everybody's a creation of God, but everybody's not a child of God. You feel me? So Jesus said, "Why do you not understand what I say? It is because you cannot bear to hear my word. You are of your father, the devil, and your will is to do your father's desires." You cannot bear to hear God's words. How many people out there can't even bear to hear scripture? They can't bear to hear God's words. People that are representations of Christ, disciples, people that, you know, we stand on scripture and we stand on what does God say about this? How it drives people crazy. People that hate Candace, people that hate Charlie, people that hate whatever, anybody that's out there preaching the word and standing on biblical principle. They hate those people because they're of their father, the devil. They're supposed to hate us. You get what I'm saying? You're not supposed to like what we have to say. It hurts you to hear God's words. It hurts you to hear scripture. It bothers you. He said, because you are of your father, the devil, Jesus said, and your will is to do your father's desires. He said, he was a murderer from the beginning and does not stand in truth because there is no truth in him. When he lies, he speaks out of his own character, for he is a liar and the father of lies, talking about the devil. Verse 45 says, but because I tell you the truth, you do not believe me. Which one of you convicts me of sin? If I tell the truth, why do you not believe me? Whoever is of God hears the words of God. The reason why you do not hear them is that you are not of God. Go read that for yourself. John chapter 8, verse 42 through 47. I think that's a good fitting description of what we're seeing right now in society. People don't want to hear truth because they're not of God. Bottom line. They don't want to hear these people. They want to see people silenced because they're not of God. It burns them to hear people like us speak, people that talk about scripture, people that literally live in their faith, not just believe in God, but obey God. See, in the Garden of Eden, Satan didn't have, if you go read the Bible real slow, Satan didn't have a problem with Eve and Adam acknowledging God's presence and God's existence. So Eve, when the serpent spoke to Eve, Eve said that the Lord our God said we may not eat from a tree in the midst of the garden. Satan said, when Satan approached Eve, he said, did God say that you may not eat from the midst of the garden? It gives me goosebumps to even think about this. Listen to this. When the serpent approached Eve, he said, did God say you can't eat from the tree in the midst of the garden? Eve said, the Lord our God said we may not eat from the tree in the midst of the garden, but we can eat everything around it, blah, 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 right? The key part of that is Eve said, the Lord our God. The serpent said, Satan said, did God say? Eve said, the Lord, Eve corrected him and said, the Lord our God. Go read it for yourself. Where do we see that in the New Testament? In the New Testament, we see in the Last Supper, when Jesus said, one of you will betray me. And everybody around the table says, is it I, Lord? Is it I, Lord? Is it I, Lord? And what does Judas say? Is it I, Rabbi? Doesn't call Jesus Lord. And that's a clear, like, man, you got to read the Bible slow so you can understand what it's saying. I can go down a rabbit hole with that. But the point is, the people that hear of God, the people that don't have a problem with God, everybody believes. You could believe in God all day long. Do you obey God? And the ones that obey God, they're going to hear God's voice differently. And when I look at this Charlie Kirk thing, somebody that obviously we know who Charlie Kirk was and what he did. Candace Owens, people that use their platforms to spread God's message first. And I would say foremost, because everything that I heard Charlie say about politics was backed by scripture. Everything I hear Candace say is backed by scripture. She always goes back to like, and some of us do it better than others, but we all are attempting to make sure that everything that we say on these cameras and that on these platforms align with scripture. And so when you do that, you got to understand you're going to be hated. Jesus said you're going to be spurned and reviled, by your name will be spurned and you'll be reviled and different things like that, because people don't want to hear truth. And it's why don't people want to hear truth? Because they're not of God. Their father's not God. Their father's the devil.